Hey everyone, welcome back, and in this video we're finally going to get started in learning something useful. To start off, we're going to start with learning about classes in Java. So to go there, we just right click our project, or if you don't have a project, file, new Java project. Since I already have one open, I'm just going to go there, new class. Well, actually, I'm going to go to file, just so I can show you how to type this by hand. I'm going to name it lesson1.java. Okay, so here we have our new file, and now we want to make a class. So do that, we type public class, then it has to be whatever you named your file. So public class lesson1, then our curly brackets, and inside our class file, whatever we want to make our program work, things such as variables, methods, functions, anything like that, you need to have inside of a class file. And as far as the public part up here goes, public just means that this should be available to all other classes. There are things in Java known as access level modifiers, and public is just one of them. It just allows other classes to access this class. And after we type our class, in our curly braces, we want to have our main method. This method is what you must have in at least one of your classes of whatever program you're making. Alright, so to make that, you type public static void main string brackets args. And then we gotta have another set of curly braces, and then everything else is inside of here. Now, explaining this, public, once again, that means it should be available to all of the classes. Static, that means only a class can call this particular method to execute. Void means that after this method is done executing, it won't return any values. And the string args part, arguments, that basically means that strings are accepted as arguments to help control how the method will function, how execute. Basically, with methods, there are arguments that you can pass in along with calling upon a method, and these things can control how it executes and how it works. So that's basically what that is. In the main, that's just your main method that you have in all of your class, well, at least one of your classes in your program, like I said. It would be the first thing that executes. Don't worry if any of this is difficult to understand. It may be at first, but as we go down the line, it'll be much easier to understand. With that, we will be moving on to variables. What a variable is, it's like a placeholder for certain types of data in Java. To declare a variable, you need to declare the variable's type, then a name for the variable, and the value of the variable. So, let's say that we wanted to store a word into a variable. We would type string, then we'd name the string, so I'm just going to name that str1, then equals, and in quotes we type our string. And I'm just going to put dolphins are cute. Dude, not cure. And after that, we end this off with a semicolon. And now, imagine we had a lot of data that we did not want to type over and over again. We could just easily access that same data in a variable. And I'm going to show you a way that we can do that with the print statement, and that just makes the computer print out whatever you tell it to print. So I'm going to, I'm going to print line. I'm going to just print out our variable. And as you can see, if you're on this, down here, it says dolphins are cute. So instead of writing this all over again, we can just print out the variable, and it's just that much easier. Now, strings aren't the only data types in Java. We have 8 different primitive data types, and I'll show you what those are right now. And what I'm doing here is I'm adding a comment, and inside of comment, whatever you type is ignored by the compiler. So you can just type little notes to yourself, to someone else. Usually it's a good idea to comment your code in case you have to come back and fix bugs, or you need to change something or how something works, anything like that. It just really makes it easier to come back and find where you are in your code. And alright, you have all of these: byte, short, int, long, float, double, a boolean. I'm gonna take that off, boolean, and character, or char, short. The first 4 of these, the byte, short, int, long, they are basically used for integers, but each type has its own maximum and minimum value that it can go up to or go down to. If you want to look those up, you can, or I'll add something saying. But the main reason that anyone would use something different instead of just using like int for everything is because using smaller data types when only a small int is required saves more memory compared to using a larger data type when a small int is required. And the float and the double, the same thing kind of goes for these two. The float, you can use those for a smaller decimal, and the double is for a larger decimal. Boolean, basically it just has 2 different values, true or false. And a character, that's just a single character, and you can just represent those with numbers or actually type the character. The important thing to remember about variables in Java is that you must always remember to declare the variable type and name when you're making a new variable. Another example of how you can use variables in Java would be simple arithmetic with mathematical operators. So let's make 2 new variables here, and we're going to make these ints. I'm going to name this one int1, and that's going to be, let's see, yeah, 5. And int2, that will be 10. And one more, I'm just going to name this one new int. Oh, and I'm not going to give that a value right now. Oops, gotta put my semicolon. And so now we can type new int equals, let's say, int 1 plus int 2. And our semicolon. And now let me put system print. Let's just make it print out our variable after that's done, so we can see how the value is changed. How now we actually have a value since we didn't have a value before. Oops. Correct that. So now if we run it, we still have dolphins are cute up there, but you see down here that we have 15. I'm gonna just erase that really quick. And we can also do that with other things. So I'm gonna I'm just going to copy this for the sake of time. And we can, up here, we can do subtraction, multiplication, and division. One thing though, just to make these work easily without using the module, I'm just going to change these around. This one will be M2 and M1. And then I'm going to copy the print statement as well, so we can see how it changes. Alright, if we run this, alright, you can see we have our answers to our mathematical operators, and I actually made one mistake. I wanted to change 2 within 1 here, so it would divide wholly instead of leaving a remainder. Well, I mean, you can't divide that, but to just show you that it will divide properly with the 2. And I'll explain the modulus later, where it'll print out the remainder when you do division. But that wraps it up for the first lesson. In the next tutorial, I'm probably gonna go over user input or something like that, and storing that in the variables, things like that. Thank you very much for watching my first video. If you have any constructive criticism about my commentary or anything that I've written, please feel free to share it with me. I'm always will be open to better myself in the videos that I'll be working on. Once again, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.